Players, I know. They say you're not supposed to live in the past. Look, it's 2023. I just read on social media this list that women came up with where you're not supposed to take them to dinner to these places. Y'all better be glad I'm off the market because all y'all will be hungry. Let's go back to 1998, a simpler time, a time where the music was much better. We're getting 5-star albums like every other day. Things were just so simple, and we didn't have social media, and life was so much simpler. Except this social media. This is Google. Stick around, we got some heat for you today. Welcome players to another edition of the Soul and Stereo Sessions on YouTube. You know who I be, you know where you are, and thank you for joining your boy again. And we're going to once again talk about the year 1998. If you know me, my favorite year of music. So not that long ago on this channel, we talked about the 10 best R&B albums of 1998. You know I got to show hip-hop some love because in 1998, man, there were incredible albums that were being released every month. Sometimes on the same day, there are 2 albums on this list that I would give 5-star reviews to that came out on the same day. We were getting so much classic material and different types of material that would shape hip-hop going forward for these next 25 years. So to me, 1998 is a pivotal year in the world of hip-hop. I mean, it's also one of my favorites too, so I gotta put my biases inside there, but you know how we do. But I want to celebrate that here with you by talking about the 10 best hip-hop albums of that era. But before we do that, do your boy a favor, hook your boy up, roll down and click the like on this video if you haven't already. Make sure that you subscribe. Look, it means a lot to me. It costs y'all nothing. But the more subscribers we get, the more engagement we get, the more motivation for me to drop these videos. Me and my boy D Roth, shout out to the producer man. And when you're done, just make sure you share it as well to some hip-hop fans that you know will enjoy this or need to be put on to the good stuff. Help somebody out here, people. And don't forget to jump in the comments too, because I know you're going to have thoughts on this list. So I won't waste too much time. You know how it goes. We're going to go the top 10 hip-hop albums of 1998. If you haven't heard them, I'm going to put you on game today. Coming in at number 10 is Goodie Mob, Still Standing. This is an album you probably don't hear about that much, and some of you may not even have heard it yet. But absolutely check it out because it's one that is pivotal in the shaping of the Southern narrative of hip-hop. So, Goodie Mob's debut, Soul Food, often regarded as a Southern classic. I can't even argue with that. This isn't far off the quality of it. It's not as good as that one, but the quality is still top-notch. Specifically, CeeLo Green, who of course most of y'all probably know, in my opinion, one of the most underrated artists, hip-hop and R&B as far as soul music in the past 25 years. The man can do it all, and lyrically, this may be his best hip-hop performance I have seen. He is on another level with the bars here. The storytelling is great because once again, they go to and frankly and very distinctly and honestly talk about what Southern life is without the stereotypes and silliness. And they just present it in such a fun way. The production from Organized Noise is a keeper. This album does not get discussed enough. That's why I'm happy to discuss it. Make sure you get put on and check this album out if you haven't already. Coming in at number 9, old Juvie, Juvenile, 400 Degrees. You thought I was going to not talk about this album, huh? You thought I was going to miss this on this list, huh? You thought I was going to show the South any love, huh? Listen, I got to show love because I could not be here without repping it. You a paper chaser? Yes, I'm a paper chaser. We all paper chasers. We ain't got enough paper. We all chasing paper, Juvie. 400 Degrees is an album that was a tonal shift for Cash Money Records. In 2023, it feels like the kind of our vision of Cash Money always goes back to Baby and of course Lil Wayne. Before your man was Lil Wayne, when he was Mr. Wobbledy Wobbledy, I was like, who is this court jester on this song? Before he reached the heights that he would, it was Juvenile, in my opinion, who drove the train. This is his third album, but this is the album, in my opinion, that established him and also established Cash Money Millionaires as significant forces in the mainstream. There are hits upon hits upon hits on this album, and I know that a lot of my folks, remember, I'm from Virginia in 1998. Virginia's an interesting place because I have lots of friends in the north, I have lots of friends down south, and of course my northern friends are like, oh, this Juvenile guy, he's a gimmick, it's just jokes, he's just being ridiculous. If you actually are a student of hip-hop and listen, no, Juvie isn't just goofing around. There's an MC in there. Yeah, they're gimmicky, paper chaser, and then ha, and things like that, but that just dialect to tell the story of his region. The actual MCing, the actual art of lyricism, the storytelling that's told, that's as hip-hop as anything else. Show that album some love for that, because it is the foundation of what would become the Cash Money Records takeover. I know we show Wayne love as we should, but it to me started here, and it's one of the best albums of that era. Maybe a Southern classic, if I want to dare state myself. Juvie was on fire. You saw what I did there. On fire. Man, I gotta go listen to this album. Gotta hurry up in this video so I can listen to this album again. Coming in at number 8, Busta Rhymes' Extinction Level Event. Another album on this list that I feel like is way underrated for what it is. Busta, sort of like Juvie, is an artist where people appreciate him as the party starter, the wild man, the rah-rah like a dungeon dragon, the woo-ha keep you all in check, the guy that just makes fun records and misses the actual artistry in it. I know we kind of give Busta a lot of grief today because every album he couldn't wait for the world to end. There was only 5 years left. Every album had some kind of apocalyptic theme, and that was kind of put to the forefront here since we were getting very, very close to the year 2000 when he expected the world to blow up or whatever. But regardless of all that, this album is everything, in my opinion, that makes Busta Busta. You got the insane party records, you got the great posse cuts, and you just got some great straight-up MCing. As a master of hooks, I think few people can put together a catchy hook like Busta Rhymes can. Very underrated in that regard. I will say the album's a little long. It's a little long. That keeps it from the top tier of this list. But beyond that, I think this has everything that a Busta fan wants and everything a hip-hop fan desires in their music. The energy is there, the storytelling is there, more stuff that we need today, and this album can be a blueprint for that. Y'all lay off all the apocalyptic stuff though. The current news cycle got me a little shook. Coming in at number 7, Big Pun, the Big Punisher himself, Capital Punishment. So I ruffled a few feathers on the social media not long ago, as I often do, when I said, in my opinion, that this album is so good, I would rate it just a bit higher than Biggie's Ready to Die. Now, before you turn that video off, because I'm sure most of you are about to turn the video off and scream, because how dare I disparage the man that's sitting right there. I'm not. That's just saying how good this album is. And sure, it doesn't have the legacy of Ready to Die. It's not as big of a classic or defining a genre like Ready to Die did. But pure lyricism at its finest form, you will not find a better album than Capital Punishment. The first hip-hop album by a Latin artist to hit that platinum certification. Man, it got me so choked up, I was so hyped over it. This album has done more to push kind of Latino rappers into the forefront, and deservedly so, because Pun is a master of the bars when it comes to putting stories together. Few can hold up to my boy Over My Shoulder, but Pun is in that conversation. There's just so much tongue-twisting, mind-bending bars. The children today will call it rapidy rap, but that's why they're children. They haven't grown up yet. It's all good, because if you enjoy intricate storytelling, masters of lyrical craft, this album is the blueprint for that, for me and for you too. Yep, I said it. It's a little bit better than Ready to Die. I'm probably gonna be ready to die after y'all hear that in the comments. Coming in at number 6 is JayZ's album, yes, Volume 2, Hard Knock Life. Now, if you've been following this channel forever, you know I've talked about this album several times. I've been a big defender of this album because I feel like this album is shortchanged. Oddly, I think it's shortchanged just because it doesn't have the lasting legacy of many of Jay's other albums. It doesn't have the Blueprints legacy, or it doesn't have the Black Album's legacy. But make no mistake, if it was not for this album, JayZ might not be JayZ today, because unlike what the revisionist history guys might tell you on Twitter, JayZ wasn't that dude for a couple years. We loved him for his lyricism, like we would a Benny the Butcher or someone today, but he did not become a game-changing platinum artist on like another level. This album, I think, went 5 times platinum until this album and that single, Hard Knock Life single. Shout out to the 45 King. We just lost him, and he is an integral part of JayZ becoming the megastar he is today. This album is one that I know that if you listen to it with 2023 ears, some of the songs might seem like it's stuck in a time period. But for someone who was in that time period, these songs were dope. And to me, most of them still hang on true. We see the shift from JayZ just doing street stuff with just a little radio singles here and there that didn't quite fit. This is where he mastered taking his sound, the both hardcore sound, and marrying it with a more radio-friendly sound, but doing so where he doesn't sound like he's betraying himself. There's no Sunshine type records here. You know what I'm talking about if you remember the In My Lifetime album. I don't hate that song, but it wasn't a good fit for a single. City Is Mine's another one. Like, I like it, but didn't fit JayZ. The albums, the tracks here, the singles here, the album itself, everything felt like Jay. Everything worked. He came into his own as an artist. And really, when it comes to mainstream hip-hop, this was kind of the turning point and the flagship for 1998 hip-hop. And honestly, it became the blueprint for the artist going forward. If you were a hardcore artist, if you were a street artist looking to go mainstream, this is what you do. He sent you the blueprint before he did the blueprint. Very important album in JayZ's legacy, and I think pretty good album. But it's just me. Alright, coming in at number 5 is Black Star. Yes, Mos Def and Talib Kweli are Black Star. That's a long title for an album. They should just call it Black Star. This album is also very important. We'll get to another album later on that bucked the trends of the era. But you gotta remember 1998. That was the year of excess. We got Puffy in the shiny suits. Everybody's dancing around in their glittery jumpsuits. It's very weird if you don't know what I'm talking about. Weird times. Hip-hop was embracing the money and the cash and all this other stuff that was kind of going away, the roots of hip-hop that was very street-oriented and gritty and grimy and just kind of level-headed and rooted. This was more excess, flashy. So I love that this album took things back to the essence, to steal a phrase, corner phrase. This album was all about lyricism, and it was all about really the black experience, putting into a way that is kind of peeling back the layers of gaudiness, shininess, and they were like, Mos and Kweli were like, we're just going to take it back to the essence. We're talking about bars. We're talking about us. We're talking about real. And this album just feels real in a way that the Goodie Mob album felt more for like a southern blend. This felt more like a northern blend. This is the realness that you were getting. And just like the Pun album we mentioned earlier, the lyricism was on another level. In an era where we hadn't pulled completely away from lyricism, but the flashiness was starting to overcome it a little bit. it was good to have a grounded album where MCs could just MC. And that's what makes this album so special. Honestly, I didn't even get on this album in '98 because I too was all distracted by the shiny thing. So I didn't hear this until years later. And I'm kind of glad I did hear it years later because I was older, more mature, and I was able to embrace those themes a little bit better than I probably would have when I was, you know, listening to Money Ain't a Thing or whatever from JayZ. Great album, and an album, again, that has helped shape the sound of hip-hop going forward in a different era. When you're thinking about underground hip-hop, this one is at the top of the list of an underground classic. Coming in at number 4 is Gangstar. Yes, Moment of Truth. Gangstar, of course, shout out to Guru, RIP to him, and DJ Premier. Spent most of the 90s just dropping these incredible albums non-stop. And after a little bit of layoff, they came back with this one. And in my opinion, this might be the best of the bunch. I know somebody will argue. That's what the comment section is for. Go check that out. But I feel like this is one of the best of the bunch. And just like the Black Star album, I think this one works well because it bucks the trend. While everybody else is getting flashy and all about their watches and cars or whatever, this album was one where we were like, we gonna do what we always doing. We gonna get on these DJ Premier scratches, boom bap beats, and Guru's just gonna talk that talk. And it works because it's one that just remains very rooted to who they are. One of the frustrations we've seen in recent years, until Nas and Hit Boy rewrote the playbook, is we see these artists who are getting up in years in their career and they just regress and try to do what the children are doing. Like, no. You will always be the old man in the club looking ridiculous. They didn't do that here, even though they were still young. I'm not at all aging Gangstar at this point, but they stuck to the sound that brought them to the table, and they were able to keep that going, and in my opinion, their best release to date. Now, before we go to the top 3, you know what it is around this time. It's time for some honorable mentions. So, D Roth, hook these folks up. Show them 5 albums that didn't quite make the list, but still worthy of some love. We're back, and coming in at number 3, an album that's near and dear to your boy's heart, DMX, It's Dark and Hell is Hot. R.I.P. DMX, another one of my favorite. All my favorite rappers dead, y'all. This is very depressing. Missy, don't go nowhere, Missy. I need you. I can't lose you. Anyway, DMX, take it back to what we were talking a little bit earlier about 1998. The excess, the flash, the cash money, the shiny suits. There were lots of artists at the time who were beginning to buck that trend. And the person who bucked it the hardest and who created a whole movement, counterculture to that, was my man Earl Simmons, DMX. He came out with the most raw, rugged material at a time where everybody is talking about what car they have and music videos, and they're on jet skis and they're on underwater submarines, whatever Puff had going on. Nope, DMX's whole video was on a black and white stage, or he was just running around on somebody's motorcycles in the hood. He kept things so simple and authentic, but what made DMX DMX was that hunger. You have never heard a man growl and howl. The man was a freaking werewolf on the beats, not just in persona, but in delivery. He had such a presence on every song. He hit hard, but what made that album special was that he was able to shift. So while he was aggressive, he also had a very spiritual side that infiltrated every one of his songs. So DMX often felt like an artist who was at war with himself. The angry street dude that'll just eat a man alive, literally, to the man of faith who was just questioning everything he did and wanted some wisdom from a higher power to give him purpose. That's why this album is so impactful. The story behind it. It's not just, oh, stop, drop, open up shop, There's more than that. It's an artist who was able to take his life and put it on wax. Of course, we got many albums from DMX later on. We just saw one from 1998. He dropped 2 in 1 year. And nothing came close to this one debut. And I think it was because he spent 20 years of his life coming to this culmination of that story. Everything after was kind of like a sequel to that, a sequel of a sequel of a sequel. But this was DMX's life put on wax and done expertly. One of my favorite albums of all time. I think one of the best hip-hop debut albums ever. We're here at number 2, and yes, you saw that right. You can get mad if you want to. It's my list. Get your own YouTube channel. Lauryn Hill, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Oh, it's an R&B album. You got an R&B album. We've talked about this many times on this channel. This album, yes, it is an R&B album. But you know what else it is? It's also a hip-hop album. It can be both. This album is both. Y'all don't say nothing when Aubrey is whining and crying all over his albums. You call that a hip-hop album. You can have both. When you have elements of hip-hop and R&B in one place, I'm willing to call that a hip-hop album because I contend that Lauryn Hill is the greatest female MC to ever live. You find me somebody better. I'm waiting. Who's better? Throw some names in the comments. I'm going to tell you that they're not better. Because lyrically, she is incredible on another planet. No matter who you put out there. You better not put those pink wigs up there. I know that. She definitely ain't better. Regardless, let's talk about how impactful that album is today. Because that album's legacy continues to strive. So, in 1998, we saw Lauryn transitioning away from the Fugees. We knew it was going to happen. She was the breakout. We knew she was going to get her own album. But what we did not know was this album was going to be as powerful and transformative as it was. It broke all these records at the Grammys. It was an incredible release that's still selling like hotcakes today. I think it's going diamond. I got to check my Wikipedia. D Roth will tell me in a second. But the point is, this album has shaped her career to the point she's never been able to top it. Probably why today everybody likes to give her grief about, oh, she never put out another album. And she actually did. Y'all just didn't pay attention. There is another album. But this album's legacy is so strong and impactful, not just because of the hip-hop references. And sure, it's a lot of R&B. There's a lot of soul into it. But you can't listen to those hip-hop songs and not be stirred. You cannot listen to her lyricism and not be moved. You can't hear that storytelling and say that, oh, yeah, she was late last week. Yeah, she was. But that doesn't take away from the legacy that this album put. In my opinion, in 2023, where hip-hop and R&B are definitely intertwined, you got artists rapping and singing and doing everything over it. Most of the time, y'all just need to stick to one thing you're good at and not do both. Lauryn was an artist who was able to do both and do it very well. She could tell a story through her lyrics. She could tell a story through song. And this album encapsulates the best of both of those worlds. I'm going to call it a hip-hop album. Can't say it's the best album here because of that. But still one of the best albums of its era. And here we are at number 1. And we are here at Outcast Aquemini. Talk about taking a risk. This album was one that, coming off of the previous albums, Southern Playalistic, coming off of AT Aliens, we drop into Aquemini in 1998, and we know that both Big Boy and Andre are old souls. But to hear songs that are so P-Funk influenced, Parliament influenced, synthesizers all over the thing, it sounded like nothing before. And at the time when I first heard this album, it was jarring going from all of these weird synthesizers from what we heard in the more bleak sounds of AT Aliens, which worked with the kind of haunting themes there. We saw an evolution of two dudes, and they were able to find themselves and put storytelling to another level. In my opinion, This is Outcast's best album by far, and I say that for two reasons. Number one, the risks they took sonically all paid off. And number two, the stories they tell. Of course, everyone talks about the art of storytelling and some of the other tracks here. But even the tracks like Mamacita, that I know people despise for some reason, still have messages that resound today. People like push away from it, but these messages and themes are absolutely relevant in 2023. These dudes were ahead of their time. We already knew they were aliens. This time they just stuck to the Zodiac. And I love the duality we get. We get the very grounded, of course, big boy doing his thing. And then Andre, who's always had his head in the clouds, head in the sky, and putting those two different packets together make for just such a complete listening experience. Sonically, I can't argue anything against it. If I'm reviewing it, this one gets a 5-star rating from your boy for sure. One of the best albums of the era. The best album in Outcast discography, and the best album of 1998 in the realm of hip-hop. I said what I said. Alright, so that's it. 10 albums of 1998 with a few honorable mentions. In my opinion, these are the best, but which ones would you say are the best? I know that y'all got your opinions. I'm sure there are some Flesh of My Flesh fans out there who wanted that on the main list. Maybe you thought, I don't know, Don Cartagena should have been on the list. I don't know. Share your thoughts below. Let me know what you think. And of course, this edition of the Soul and Stereo Sessions is a wrap. I'm still working on this time machine. I'm trying to go to 1998 because 2023 is getting on my last nerve. So much better music then. Anyway, play on, players.